Awesome. Good evening and welcome to the District 2 Advisory Board meeting for Monday, August 10th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. I'm Becky Tuttle, and it's my honor to be your City Council member representing District 2. One of the things that we always like to do is make sure that we introduce all of our District Advisory Board members, and most of us know the drill by now, but we're going to give our name, the neighborhood that we're representing, and your favorite thing about Wichita, and try not to repeat what anyone else says. So in no particular order, we'll just kind of do this as least chaotically as possible. So anyone who wants to start, go ahead. And I should have said, I'm sorry, again, I'm Becky Tuttle. I live in the villas at Wilson Estates. And my favorite thing about Wichita is the number of our residents who are engaged and interested in what's happening at the city level. While it's kind of a mixed blessing, I can tell you that last week alone, I received 3,000 emails regarding the police funding issue, probably had another 500 over the weekend, a couple thousand on masks, a bunch on Century 2. And while it's challenging sometimes to get through all of them, it also just really warms my heart that people know who their city council members are and that they want to reach out to them and share their opinions. So I always tell people, reach out and let us know what you think. That's how we can make the best decisions for our community. So whoever wants to go next.
I'm Nazir, East Kellogg Business, Nazir Jasri. And my favorite thing about Wichita today is that the weather can't change because it's too hot today. Just too hot.
I agree. All right, who's next?
I'll go next. I'm Sam Lindeman. I represent Bonnie Bray area. And I think the best thing about Wichita, I've been fortunate when I was working to travel the country, and we still have the best people around the whole country right here in the Wichita. They're just great people.
I agree. Awesome. Who's next?
I'll go next. My name is Jeanette Everett, representing the waterfront. And I think what I'm liking about Wichita now is our ability to be so flexible in this new age of meetings. And we just have learned that we adapt. And I think we have as many people on tonight as we normally do at our regular meeting. So yeah. I do like the versatility of our people.
Yeah. Awesome point. For those of you who know Lonnie the plumber, who attends almost everything, he could not be more happy with this because now he can get to more things. So for some people, this is a real advantage. All right, who's next?
I'll go. Nancy Loosely, represent Hartmore area. And one of the things I love about Wichita is just the variety that Wichita provides. It's a big enough city to offer that variety and things to do. But also not so big that we deal with some of the big city issues. So I love the variety and the culture that our city has.
Great point. All right, who's next?
I'll go next. My name is Janaea Knoll, and I work for Wichita Park and Recreation at Edgemoor Recreation Center. And my favorite things, one of them about Wichita, are our parks systems.
Good point. I'm a big fan. All right, Nancy, I think you were going to go next.
I just went.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Dee, were you going to go? Sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm trying to chalk them up.
That's okay. My name is Dee Neiswanger, and I represent the Whispering Lakes Estates neighborhood. And the thing that I like most about Wichita is our robust nonprofit community.
Oh, I like that. Great. All right, we got a few left. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. I didn't hear everyone else. This is Tracy Adams. I represent the Harrison Park area. And so I didn't hear what everyone else said. So
That's
this
okay.
may be a repeat. What I love about Wichita is the traffic. And I say that a lot, but I go other places and then I'm back and I love our traffic.
Good point. Get anywhere in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, got two, I think, left.
I'll go ahead and go. My name's Pete Ritter. I'm representing the Wichita Fire Department. I'm currently assigned here at station number 9 at Kellogg and Edgemoor area. My favorite thing is the Wichita Fire Department, obviously, and the great citizens. So we get a lot of support, and we're just proud to serve, just happy to serve.
Thank you for your service. And you may be one of my favorite stations.
I won't tell anybody.
All right, who else do we have?
Hi, this is Chris Broderick in the Northbrook neighborhood. And my favorite thing, well, my number one favorite thing Tracy just took was the commute around town. But a close second is the nature trails, especially here on the northeast side, like Great Plains Nature Center. There's just a lot to, even in times like this, go out and do and enjoy the outdoors. So.
Yeah, and just to, I always I'm trying really hard, and Corey and I have talked about this, just to give you tips or facts so you can get to know District 2 better, get to know the city better. But the Great Plains Nature Center is one, I think it's the only facility in the nation that is a partnership between the federal, the state, and the local level. And so we've won national kudos for having that unique partnership and just such a great amenity. So glad you enjoy it. Awesome. Steve.
Steve Lebeda from the Rockwood neighborhood, and some of Tracy, some of Chris kind of stole my thunder, but it was that 2 more miles of East Kellogg was open. But half joking, but I am glad to see the city, and it's obviously something that costs a little more, but when you drive down, from downtown and some of the stuff that's been done early, but even now further past Webb, that we spend a little more on that for the bridges and the turnarounds. And there's, kind of artistic metal works along the underside of the bridge, like when you come in from Lowe's and everything. So it's nice to see, those are multi-million-dollar projects. And some of that, granted, it's extra dollars, but probably not a large percentage comparative to everything you're already spending. And it just, to me, it really helps Wichita look a little nicer, a little higher end,
Yeah, I agree. And one thing the council did this year is we committed to having a certain percentage, 2% of funded of projects be funded to make sure that they have an art component. We have a fantastic design council that everything goes through. And if you haven't gone down to Webb and Greenwich at night when it's lit up, it is amazing. Some of our engineers send me pictures at night and it really does look cool. So good point. Savannah and John, I think I've got next, and then Corey, you're not getting out of it, but Savannah, you want to go next?
Sure. This is Savannah Ball. I am the branch manager at the Rockwell Branch Library. And one of my favorite things about Wichita is all the things there are for kids to do.
Yeah. And Savannah, the Rockwell Library is actually in District 1, but they graciously let us use it in District 2. We don't have a library in District 2, but the Rockwell Library is the only library in the city of Wichita with a fireplace. So it is Santa Claus ready. All right, John, you want to round it out for us before Corey?
Sure. John Sidwell, Wichita Park and Rec, over at the Boston Rec Center facility. I would say, like a couple others, our favorite thing about Wichita is the parks. And I would also say probably the easy commute we have in Wichita compared to some other cities. Even with all the construction, it's not as bad as some other cities have to go through. So it's pretty nice.
Awesome. Thank you. And Corey, last but certainly not least.
Corey Bukta, the District 2 Community Services Representative. And my favorite thing about Wichita right now is Striker. I spend a lot of time out there coaching and playing soccer, and and I've been to lots of other soccer facilities in other cities, and this is just so much better than other places. A lot of people don't get to go out there and enjoy it as much as maybe I do, but if you get a chance, you should check it out.
Yeah, world-class facility. And we're adding a keeper out there soon. So super excited about that to help celebrate the 150th birthday of Wichita, which was this past July. All right, so we will move on quickly so we can be prudent with your time. But the first thing we need to do is make sure that we approve the agenda for August 10th, 2020. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Anyone want a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 I doubt it, but anyone opposed? All right, easy breezy. Corey sent out the minutes just a little bit ago, so hopefully you had a time to review them. And Corey does a fantastic job with them, so usually they're pretty solid. So I would entertain a motion from anyone who feels comfortable to approve the minutes.
This is Dee. I'll make that motion to approve
Thank
the
you, Dee.
minutes.
Anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And all those in favor say aye. And if you need to abstain because you weren't here last month, that's okay. We'll give you a chance to abstain too. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone need to abstain? I think everybody was here. Okay, awesome. So I don't see anyone who's joining us for an off agenda item. This is an opportunity if anyone wants to come from the community and have 5 minutes, just like they do on city council. We don't require people to register or to say in advance like we do for city council, but I don't see anyone here. So we will move on. So we have fire first. You're up.
Okay, I went ahead and pulled the events for July for District Number 2, and they either didn't get entered or you had none. I'm not exactly sure what happened when I pulled them. That 0 events showed up. So I'm going to touch base on the June of 2020. In your district, which will be similar to July, was 401 incidents. 336 of those were medical alarms. Service alarms were 47, and that was just kind of many miscellaneous services. Really couldn't code them for what they were. And there was their fire alarms were 18 fire alarms. So basically anything fire related, like vehicle fires, structure fires, anything along that. Like I said, I apologize for the July numbers, but even during the total count citywide, District 2's does not show up. So I'm assuming there was no structure fires in the month of July in District 2. So that's a good thing. Shows that fire prevention is paying off, and we're doing everything right. So just a lot going on, the civil unrest and everything across Wichita and the nation. So everybody's supportive. And I think that's another thing why we should like our city that we live in, is just for the fact that we're supportive of one another, and that goes a long ways. And we appreciate all the support that we get. So.
And we survived the 4th of July.
We did. It was on a Saturday. It was on a Saturday with no major fireworks shows. So everybody was shooting off fireworks. It seemed like so.
And I got very few complaints, which was good. And we had 2 teams this year who were out addressing it instead of 1. So I think that helped too, right?
Yep. We had additional crews out on the streets addressing it, being fair, educating. Obviously, education goes a lot farther than citations. So we educated a lot of people, and it really paid off. It went farther than just handing out citations. So.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for your service, and thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you.
Be safe, friend.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
I don't see anyone from police here unless I'm missing it. Just to give you an update, I have a bi-weekly meeting with our police chief. Just talked to him today. We talked most significantly about budget issues and defunding police, the concept that's going out there. I'm sure you're hearing about it. And then also with the rallies that we've been having and the protests around that. And just a huge kudos to our city police, who really have done an exceptional job of making sure that we keep things de-escalated. That's always their top priority. And I do say, I think because of the great work of our police, we've had rallies and not riots like some other communities. So kudos to them. And I'm sure they're exactly where they need to be tonight, getting ready for different events in the community that are happening. So we will next go to John. John, you want to tell us about Park and Rec? Yes. Oh, yeah.
I actually was emailed 2 reports.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Corey.
So Officer Ryan Snyder emailed me a report. He's with 46 Beats. He usually comes to our meetings. The first area he wants to cover is larcenies to auto. He says, unfortunately, this will always be one of the major incidents for this area. I've received several complaints of vehicle owners having their vehicles rummaged through. The trend seems to be that all of these vehicles were locked. Normally, I could write it off as someone just forgot to lock their vehicle. However, the volume of reports indicates otherwise. It is believed that a group of criminals is using either a lockout kit or a code grabber to make entry into vehicles. And I actually emailed everyone this report just before the meeting started, and it included images of both of these things. And it says, for those that are unfamiliar with either a lockout kit, their tools used to pry open doors to gain access to interior door panels to unlock them. Code grabbers are devices that obtain and mimic the signal of a vehicle's key fob. And you have those pictures. Please feel free to post this information to any HOA site or neighborhood app that I have not already contacted. Also advise your residents to be on the lookout for any suspicious activity, including any occupied vehicles not belonging in the area. If there is an incident in your neighborhood, I would encourage the victim to make a report. They can be made by phone through Case Desk at 316-268-4221. Have them communicate with the other surrounding residents to see if additional camera footage is available. On the issue of parking and traffic issues, The Willow Bend area has had some concerns regarding speeding around the residential areas, especially near the golf course crossing areas. Officers have conducted enforcement in the area. I've been in contact with Willow Bend HOA to see if we can address the issues with additional signage or other means. Companies along 3700 and 3800 North Cypress were concerned with a large amount of commercial trucks on the street. This was causing visual obstructions and traffic concerns. Contact was made with the traffic engineering department and no parking signs are going up to reduce the amount of vehicles on the street. Juvenile concerns. Recently, we had several juveniles at the Wichita Children's Home that are habitually running away from the facility. These juveniles would not make any efforts to participate in any programs and would leave the property to commit criminal acts such as drug use, vandalism, auto thefts, and burglary. Contact was made with the WCH, and after some discussion, the juveniles causing majority of the issues were removed from the facility and transferred to St. Francis Ministries for placement elsewhere in the state. Another facility, Life Inc., also houses juvenile offenders in the area. I've received similar complaints on the juveniles. Contact has been made with DCF and St. Francis Ministries to tighten restrictions and reform policies so the juveniles are better monitored. And the last thing he mentions is protest events. There's still a significant amount of protests going on during August. Please understand that many of the community policing units throughout the city have adjusted their work schedules to accommodate these events. This allows us to keep a majority of patrol officers free to continue to make 911 calls. Some of our regular duties have been delayed because of this. If you have an issue, please be patient and we'll try to resolve it as soon as we can. He asks that you contact him or email him with any questions. I also received a report from Officer John Mayer out of 38 Beat. He says that burglaries are down 13% compared to last month at this time. They dropped from 23 to 20. Larceny is down 7%. They dropped from 215 from 230. Auto theft saw no changes with 28. The year-to-year comparison shows that burglaries are down 20% overall, but non-residential burglaries are up by 12%. Larcenies are down 15% overall, but auto thefts are up 11%. It's 163 compared to 147 last year. He mentions that he patrols 38 Beat. He's seen a dramatic increase in auto thefts between Edgemoor and Oliver. The cases all have similarities, such as keys being left in the vehicle or the keys being unaccounted for. There's also rarely any glass breakage. He suspects the suspects are checking door handles in the night and taking whatever they find. Please remind everyone to protect themselves from unnecessary thefts by locking their cars and removing all valuables. And that's all for the police report.
All right. Thank you so much.
Can I ask a question? You mentioned something, you sent a copy of a door opener or some pictures of key. Bob, what was it that you sent? I'm not seeing
Yeah,
it.
so just before the meeting started, I forwarded the email that Officer Snyder sent to me, and attached in that email were two images, one of the lockout kit. So it's basically like if you lock your keys in your car, this is the kit they would use to help you get in your car. And then the other one was the code grabber. I don't know how to describe it, but it looks like kind of like an electric thermometer almost, used to mimic key fobs. But those were images attached to that email I sent if you got that.
Got it. I just saw it. All right.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you, Corey, for doing that. And I'm sorry I missed it. It's somewhere in the inbox, so I'll look at it later. Okay, John, sorry about that. We stole your thunder. Now you're up with Park and Rec.
Yes, thanks for having me. Well, we're wrapping up our summer session. Summer camps have come to an end, which numbers have been drastically lower due to the COVID-19. Our fall session will begin in September. We are looking to still have our classes, obviously with the protocols in place. You know, our numbers that we can accept for classes have diminished. Also have football practice, citywide team Cowboys are practicing in Boston Park right now in the evenings. We just completed about 2-3 weeks ago the playground at Boston Park. So it's good to see, you know, kids able to have a playground out there in the park now. And from the feedback that I've gotten, they really enjoy the new park. I think the only thing we need additions to is maybe adding some trees out there. So I'm gonna see if we can get some trees planted for some more shading over on the backside of the building. With that being said, the Boston pool has been torn out. There's dirt laid down and it's ready to go for the splash pad that will be hopefully done, hopefully by next summer. So they have that out there for the summer as well to go with the new playground. We're just kind of trying to tackle some things in regards to like some special events coming up. As you know, we have our Halloween events that we do at multiple rec centers. We have our Night with Santa, which is a high number in attendance people. So we're just trying to see what we can do to make change to follow within guidelines, or see if we can even offer it this year, like with the Night with Santa. But we're considering other options, and we have meetings coming up to kind of go over that as a committee and kind of decide where we're going to go forward with that. But with that, that's all I have going on over here at Boston. Janaea might have something from Edgemore though.
I will just echo what John said. Our summer session is about coming to an end. The fall session begins mid-September. The Evolve Guide, which we have with the library and City Arts, is online. We don't have it printed for the summer, but it is available online. And our pool, as well as Boston's, there are several pools that are in the process of being filled in and then turned into splash pads. So that's kind of exciting. And then that was pretty much it. The same thing. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And just in case you don't know, I'd be happy to visit with any of you about our master aquatics plan. It was one of my highlights in my tenure so far on council to be able to approve that. When people hear splash pads, I think they think sometimes like on Douglas, those bronze statues, and there's a little water spurt that comes out. That's not what this is at all. These are awesome and really interactive, and each one tells a different story. They're not all the same, and just a really cool, unique opportunity for people of all ages to get out and to enjoy our amazing parks. I think we have 156 parks across the city, and each one is a little bit different size and has different amenities, but the splash pads are really going to enhance the park system that we have. So I'm a huge fan of Park and Rec and was on the Park Foundation board. So thank you for all you do. Really appreciate your work.
This is Dee.
Yeah, please.
Can I ask a really quick question? Are the playgrounds open for public use right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, currently they are available. We have signs up, encouraging social distancing and things like that in place. As far as what I've seen, children don't understand social distancing very well, regardless of what you tell them. But it seems like the parents around the playgrounds do well of keeping themselves separated. But as far as the children, it's kind of hard to kind of pull them away from each other. But yes, they are open to the public.
And are there procedures that are in the works or happening related to sanitizing of the equipment, or are we just encouraging like parents to monitor that? Or
yeah, we're trying to encourage everyone obviously to take care of that parts on their own as far as sanitizing, whether that's spray alcohols or hand sanitizers, to kind of just keep yourself, safe. But I know I had a couple youth workers that I had them go out there every once in a while, and I would have them like spray down like the handles on stuff out there. But I don't think that's necessarily something that's in place for all the parks. Just as much as encouraging the social distancing and just sanitizing your hands yourself, and make sure you're washing your hands after you're done at a facility like that.
okay, thank you.
That's a really good question. That's a great question. Thank you. I learned something for sure. All right. Thank you, Park and Rec friends. Appreciate all you do. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You're welcome to hang around if you want to learn more, but otherwise you can go and be with your families. And last but not least, we've got Savannah with library. Thank you for hanging with District 2 always.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so this year's fall gardening series, which we do in partnership with the K-State Research and Extension Office, will be offered in a virtual format using Zoom instead. The entire series will be recorded, and so it'll be available at a later date for people to access. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to our website and register for the programs. Once you've registered, you'll receive an email the day before that scheduled program with some information about how to access it through Zoom. Because of the ongoing uncertainty with COVID-19, the library and its community partners have chosen to postpone the NEA Big Read until January and February of next year. And even then, we will move it to a virtual format. The health and safety of our participants and staff and partners is important. And so they just want to make sure they are taking the time to offer the best possible Big Read program with that safety at the forefront. And customers are still encouraged to go ahead and place a hold on that book through our online catalog or access the ebook and e-audiobook on the Libby app, because you'll have a little bit more time to read it. There are multiple ways that customers can access library materials because currently our shelves are temporarily unavailable. So each location offers a concierge service. So if you know what materials you'd like to borrow or have an idea of titles or authors that you'd like to check out, you can ask staff for assistance and then we'll just pull that material for you. You can also use the library's new reading recommendations and grab bag services that you can access through our website. You just fill out a form describing what you are looking for, and our selectors will help pick out material for you. And then you can also still access the library's full catalog online. And then using your library card, you could place holds. We'll pull them for you. And you'll be able to pick them up either through curbside or coming inside to retrieve your holds. And finally, we're still offering public computing, faxing, printing, scanning, and Wi-Fi service at all of our locations while still keeping social distancing guidelines in place. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Savannah? Awesome, Savannah. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. The summer reading program went really well, and I was happy to every week during the summer read a story on Facebook Live, for maybe give parents a break and kids a different voice to hear a story. So I got to revisit some of my favorites, and it was a lot of fun. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Awesome. And Corey, I always mess this up. I'm sorry, we don't need to receive and file, right? We don't need to vote for it.
I mean, receive and file is
The reports.
Yeah, it's something that's just on there. So
yeah, okay, awesome. So the last agenda item, and I can say from my time on the DAB and then being on council, this is a rare exception not to have any zoning case or anything else, right? Corey, since you've been here. So and Nazir, you've been here, Sam, for a while. So when I looked at it, I kept going, wait, there's something missing. But so the next thing that we're going to talk about, and Corey's going to take the lead, but I'm just going to preface with a few things, if I can take that privilege, Corey. The Health and Wellness Coalition of Wichita, I am the chair of, in full disclosure, and have been for years. I've been involved with the group since its inception 15, almost 16 years ago. And in 2013, I helped with others to lead the food desert study for our community. Back then, no one was talking about food deserts. No one even knew what it was. And we had to convince people that it was an issue, and did a lot of great work. If you go to hwcwichita.org, you can see the study, you can see the process. Went to every grocery store, every corner market, convenience store that sells food, and did an assessment and found out some pretty significant things that we have, and Corey's going to cover some of it, but 25% of our population lives in a food desert. 44 square miles lives in 44 square miles of food deserts. But then also more startling to me was that healthy food costs more in lower income neighborhoods and disparate neighborhoods. So ever since then, the Health and Wellness Coalition has been working to address this. And it was really the genesis for the Food Policy Committee starting. And then we did the Hurdles to Healthy Food Access study. And then we did the Food System study. And the next thing that we're doing is working on a master food plan. The one thing, if you know a lot about the city, or as you get to know more, we like master plans, and we usually like 10 or 15 year master plans so that we can be thinking out and thinking forward and have a future generation mindset. And so we are now embarking and have been slowed down a little by COVID, but I think we're getting our steam back of developing a master food plan with our partners at the county to make sure that everyone in our community has access to healthy foods. And we certainly at the city know that it's not just our role. There's many partners who are involved in this work, but we want to do what we can to be a good steward with what we have and how we can help. So with that, Corey, I'm going to turn over to you and you can share the PowerPoint.
All right. So I am involved with this project as city staff on the steering committee for the Master Food Plan. We're working with several community partners, as Becky mentioned, and I want to start by sharing my screen and showing a short video that gives a lot of good explanation created by the Health and Wellness Coalition. So let me share that really quickly.
And while he's doing that, I'm going to say this isn't just a District 2 opportunity because it's my passion area. All the districts are hearing this because eventually this work will go even to the City Council and to the County Commission to approve the actual plan. So we're special, but we're taking these to all the devs just to raise community awareness.
And let me know, can you see my screen right now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to play this video and hopefully the audio works for you.
Right now, nearly 100,000 Wichitans live in an area without access to healthy food. It's just one of the many issues facing
We might just have to send out the link for the video, Corey.
our local food system. I'm Shelley Rich with the Health and Wellness Coalition, and I'm going to tell you about a new master food plan that's going to address these issues and how you can help. The City of Wichita, Sedgwick County, and several community partners are teaming up to develop the 10-year food system. Deserts grow our regional economy, local food production barriers, health and wellness, social equity, protecting natural resources, and reducing food waste. A few years back, the Health and Wellness Coalition did a study, and we found 25% of Wichitans live in a food desert, places where people don't have access to a nearby grocery store. The master plan will tackle what we can do to address the lack of access to healthy foods for thousands. It's critical we consider fairness in our food system and how to better serve all of our neighbors. We're also going to address the barriers and challenges that limit local food production. We will study what would make it easier for more people to participate in growing activities, whether it's running a small family farm or starting a community garden. Did you know if Sedgwick County residents spent just 5% more on locally grown food, it would result in about $80 million more circulating through Sedgwick County each year? We'll also consider the barriers to getting that food into restaurants and homes and the effects this has on our local economy. Another important topic the master plan will address is how the barriers of the food system are impacting the community's health and wellness. When looking at the diversity of Sedgwick County, we want to better understand the challenges that exist that limit access to different food cultures. The master plan will also take up the issue of food waste and protecting natural resources as it relates to the local food system. What challenges exist that limit us from adequately addressing food waste? How are our natural resources affected by the local food system? We need your feedback as well. Please take a few minutes to complete a brief survey and share your experiences. You can also share your ideas on how to solve these problems. The survey is available in English and Spanish. So if you grow, buy, cook, or eat food in Sedgwick County, please take the survey and share it with others. If you'd like to learn more about the Food System Master Plan, go to wichita.gov/foodplan. Thank you for helping us work to solve the important issues facing Sedgwick County residents.
Have any of you heard about the master plan before, or have any of you even taken the survey?
I've heard of it through the Kansas Health Foundation. Not taken the survey, but very, very familiar with the civic and the community engagement as it relates to the whole master plan and food deserts, because number one, the Health Foundation does a lot of work in that area as it relates to access. And so yeah, it's a pretty cool thing.
And just to echo that, I should have said, one of the things I did before I got on council was I wrote a grant to the Kansas Health Foundation, and they are the ones who are funding a consultant to help lead us through this process. There's only one other city in the state of Kansas that has a master food plan right now, and that's Lawrence. And so we brought in the person who really spearheaded and led their initiatives to be able to guide us through the process. So thanks to the Kansas Health Foundation. Jeanette, I know you're a board member, and we really appreciate their support so that we can make this come to fruition.
This is Dee. Can I just, Corey, could you share the link to that video in our chat so we could easily grab that? Because I'd like to share that with in our HOA Facebook group.
Yes.
Or via an email would be even.
Yeah, I will do that. So that video is 2 places right now. It's on the city's YouTube account, and it is also on that site, wichita.gov/food plan, which I will send you the link to both of them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And the survey that you,
I
the
did
link
do
you
that.
shared,
Yes, that's the
can you
link.
add that into the email too? Because I'd like to post that in our HOA
Yes.
Facebook group
Oh,
too.
awesome.
Thank you.
I will do that, and please do.
Yep, thanks.
Just to point out too, because we've talked a lot about this at Wichita State, because one of the areas I work with is our on-campus food pantry. And so we work a lot with the other campus food pantries, both locally and statewide. And we actually just did a survey this last semester that talks about food insecurity within, I'd say, Wichita State, which is a community within the larger community. So to gauge that information. So we also have that information, which I know is, another about 15,000 students that have been surveyed outside of the greater Wichita or within the greater Wichita area. So we've talked a lot about this also. And I think there's communities even within the larger Wichita State or Wichita community that can provide information or even just help with this whole process.
Nancy, I think we should collaborate a little bit on what you found in that survey, because I think that's a key demographic that we're probably missing as well.
Great. Yeah, and I can even find the survey because I have it, and I can share the basic information on that. So I can find that and send that to you, Corey.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
So as the video mentioned, these are just a handful of the areas we're trying to tackle. And one of the things that we're doing in the public engagement phase of this project is trying to narrow down what our community feels are the most important aspects of our food system that we really should be focusing on right now. But here are the this is the larger list that we started with that we'd like to narrow down a little bit more. And as Becky and the video both mentioned, some surprising statistics here. One of the interesting ones is that if we could increase local food purchases by 5%, that's $80 million in the local economy each year. And you see how little of the food that we actually grow here we consume. Vegetables are obviously higher, fruit and vegetables are higher, but 0.0008% of the chicken we consume and 0.4% of the eggs are produced locally. And then there's that other staggering statistic, 25% of Wichitans don't have access to healthy food, and there's 44 square miles of food desert in Wichita.
Mm.
So how can the city affect change when it comes to our local food system? And this is just some of the entities involved in the food system and how, for example, some of those entities can get involved in this issue. Now, this is sort of a cutoff graphic. There's a larger one you can find at wichita.gov/food plan. This isn't necessarily the roadmap of what our food plan will be doing specifically, but these are different ideas that can be looked at. This timeline has not yet been adjusted on the graphic, but it has been adjusted in real time. So originally, we were going to do the community engagement phase from January to April. That's been extended through September right now. We got our deadline extended to next year to do our presentation to City Council. So instead of it being fall, winter 2020, it's going to be late 2021. that gives us the opportunity to ramp up our community engagement and to hear some of the voices that we haven't heard yet. We started the survey back in late January, early February, and we're hearing from a lot of people you'd probably expect us to hear from, mostly college degree holders and homeowners, things like that. We're missing a lot of low income voices in this survey. We're missing students, we're missing parents with small children, that kind of thing. So that's one way you all can help us out, help us spread the word, share it with your communities, share it with groups that you know, church groups, things like that. How you can help, obviously take that survey, the one that I linked, and then tell other people you know to take the survey. We need additional comments. We have a few community meetings. If you have any direct involvement in the food system here in Wichita, we've had 2 roundtable meetings right now over specific areas. We're going to have 2 more, one regarding food waste and one regarding access, coming up here shortly, and those dates are still being finalized. So let's have a quick discussion right now, if we can. When you think about our food system right now, what challenges do you experience? What solutions do you think could work in our community? And let me take that a step back and say, maybe you don't directly experience any challenges in our food system. What challenges do you witness in our food system?
Hey, Corey, this is Chris. I have a question before I try to answer that. How did you define, or did the team define local on this? Like, is that state or city, or what is local?
So local, when it comes to food production specifically, we found that almost every entity has their own definition. It could be 100 miles, it could be within the state. We haven't limited ourselves to a specific definition. I think everyone's just kind of thinking like Sedgwick County and surrounding areas, basically. But yeah, that's a really good question, and one that's really tough to define. So what about challenges in our food system, things that you see, things that you might experience yourself?
Hey, Corey, I had another question as well. What's the distance they consider somebody being in a food desert from the closest store?
When the FDA, I'm sorry, Corey.
No, please, you'll have a better answer than.
Yeah, so the FDA has a national standard that a food desert is considered if it's more than 1 mile from a full service grocery store and the majority of the residents are low income. Not all, but the majority. And so we have followed the FDA guidelines for that here locally.
Corey, you asked about challenges. What challenges? Obviously, I think you mentioned some already in the video or somewhere about the low-income communities. Even the stores that are available, they may have a Dollar General or some stores that they may get a little food out of, but it's not the kind of food, obviously, that the people need to spend their monies on. But that's what's in the neighborhood. That's what's been provided for them. So it's what a person is used to. So it's a little disappointing earlier when you say, well, some of the people who haven't had the survey are some of these people, like if you were to send the survey out to the churches that for their parishioners, then you're going to probably get some input, really good input. So that's a whole part about diversifying the table and making sure that these surveys are intentionally inclusive of the people who use the service, as the people who need the service, and those who can help provide.
Yes, all very, very good points.
So this is Dee. 2 questions. I guess 1 question and 1 comment. The question is, do we have any areas in our district that would be identified as food deserts?
We do not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly in the core of the city and
Right.
south of Kellogg.
Okay. And the other thing that I would say is based on my experiences, you know, throughout the community and working with nonprofits and folks with disabilities, is the issue of just access to affordable, healthy food options. So it's not only the issue of accessibility in terms of people being able to go to a full service grocery store. Sometimes, you know, even if it was within a mile, the transportation to get to it or access it becomes a challenge. And then the other issue is affordability, I would say.
Yeah, and that's a great point and leads to another great point. If you wanted to buy some fresh local produce, where would you go to buy it right now? Do you even know? I mean, the first guess would probably be the farmers market, right? Do you know where the farmers markets are and when they are?
Not all of them, but also some of the farmers markets get the big box products that are brought in from other parts of the country, and they have those in addition to what they grow to make it sustainable for them to spend the time to sell their products.
I think it's also, I mean, I think I'm really intrigued by the idea about promoting community gardens. And, you know, there are, I think, a lot of benefits to that, not just the production of consumable fresh food, but also just the sense of community, the relationship building, the sense of agency and autonomy that you build, you know, within communities and with neighbors, kids, you know, getting kids involved in that and getting kids and youth excited about that. I know it's fun. We planted a little garden in our backyard and we get so excited about going out and picking the strawberries and when the cucumbers actually turn out like they're supposed to. And, you know, so it's, you know, the idea of a neighborhood or a community garden is pretty exciting too. It's kind of a neat idea I'd like to see promoted more and see how we can engage in that. I know we also see it with our disabled community too. You know, some of our group homes and supported living organizations, you know, create opportunities for people to get involved with, you know, gardening. And there's just a lot of pride that they take in that too. So lots of benefits from that possibility.
Yeah, all great points too. We look at community gardens with this as well. And, you know, when we start talking about the need for the food system master plan and the statistics with food deserts, like those are the shocking and alarming statistics that stand out. But there's a lot of barriers in our food system that a lot of us don't know about because we're not involved with that sector. So even growing food locally, there are a lot of barriers to that. And a lot of it stems from just lack of information and understanding. You talk about community gardens. Do you know where you can grow a community garden or what you can grow in a community garden? Or do you have access to irrigate a community garden? What's that going to take and what's that going to cost? We also, like I've said before, we have held a couple of roundtable discussions with some key stakeholders. And one of those stakeholders was local farmers. We brought them literally to the table and asked them, what are the barriers for production here? And, you know, they told us a lot of the things that they're facing, which are things that I never would have guessed. Some of them I might have, but, you know, that's a longer discussion. But yeah, so the food system involves a lot of different parts. There's a lot of different issues facing all of those that we might not all be aware of. Other things that we want to talk about here on this slide, other issues that you see?
I would say, and maybe my perspective is because I work with a younger population, is some of it is education and how to cook and what to cook with. We see, I say, a lot of college students that have never even as simple as boiling water and understanding how to prepare food. And especially food that's not, you just throw in the microwave, actually, that's healthier. I think some of it is just educating people how to prepare food and the options of what does that look like. So it's access, but then once you get it, or how to pick it, you know, how to pick things that are healthier and more nutritious, that have better value for them when it comes to nutrition. So I feel like there's an education aspect too when it comes to food itself. I think sometimes we assume that happens as people grow up, and that doesn't always, especially we work with a lot of international students or students from other countries. And so they come to Wichita and, you know, it's a new culture for them, and how do we educate them on here's some healthy options over here. So I think education overall is a big part in helping people make informed decisions for themselves, their families, whoever it may be.
Yeah, that's a great bit of feedback. Thank you.
Hey, Corey, I have a slight emergency. That's too strong of a word, but something I have to take care of right away. Would you mind wrapping up the meeting for me?
Yep.
Would that be okay? Okay, I'm very sorry, y'all. And I will follow up with Corey to see what great feedback I missed, and I will look forward
How many people are in your house?
month, but let me know if you need anything in the
Wait for food with emergency distribution
Corey,
site.
Corey, you can't do that to us. What did the farmers share with you that are the barriers to local food growing here? Just some of the barriers.
One of the biggest issues is just the fact that it doesn't pay a lot of money. So
That's number one.
Yeah. So they have to charge a certain amount to make a profit and to make a living. And restaurants can just go to Cisco and buy bulk, factory farm produce for a whole lot cheaper than they can buy from this local farmer. That's probably their number one issue, really. It's the fact that they need to get restaurants to pay the prices that they need to stay in business.
Economics, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there is a clear difference in quality too, as you probably very well know, but it's getting restaurants to see the importance and the value there, which also brings up another great question. Do you know which restaurants locally use and buy local produce? Because they're out there. Yeah, I know of a couple. But Chris, you look like you're about to ask a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna elaborate on my question about what is local, because that kind of obviously merges into the food desert statistic, and I was just curious, with all the developments in the last 4 or 5 months and all these restaurants, but also grocery stores, delivery is a huge thing now that they're pushing. And so do you see that, cutting into eliminating food deserts, or potentially how does that play into all this? And then also, if that counted as local or not. And then, but the other point I was going to make was this really starts diving into a very deep, society conversation as well. When you talk about community gardens and why are grocery stores closing in certain neighborhoods and not others, and it's a very deep rabbit hole that you can get into of how do you solve this, because you can try to support up local grocers or this and that, and then if they just leave the area, like Walmart started those neighborhood things, and then within a year or two they were gone. So there'd be a lot of statistics in how some of that happens, but more or less the grocery stores and delivery is just kind of my comment. Sound like a good way to try to bridge that gap to the deserts.
Yeah, and so that was actually an interesting thing that came out of all this COVID stuff. We started to adapt how we were thinking about potential solutions to a lot of these issues. And then, again, the scope of this issue is much larger than the scope of the recommendations that we'll be able to make to City Council. At the end of the day, what do they have the capacity to affect? They can't say, well, there's no grocery store in this neighborhood, so let's bring a grocery store here. They can't do that. So how in a creative way, working towards the goals of a healthier society, you know, increasing access and social equity. What capacity do we have to affect change in that aspect? But yeah, we did think about, you know, grocery stores delivering. You know, could we potentially talk about vouchers, delivery vouchers to low-income neighborhoods, that kind of thing? How does that affect the food desert debate? It's not a debate, but the discussion. But yeah, no, that's a great point, and something that we definitely are thinking about and considering for sure. Because you know, ultimately, a food desert, in more common terms, is a place where you can't walk to the grocery store, more or less. You know, so how does delivery change that?
Hey, Corey, I have a question. Does and I don't remember the term, but the opportunity zones where they were back 2-3 years ago started for tax incentives, but then does that apply to any type of development, or was that just for residential in opportunity zones? And then second question, if that does or doesn't, is there also potential for any other incentives as far as maybe some form of public-private partnership that the city could target to try to encourage, you know, local grocers or somebody to be able to maybe find a niche to get into some of these desert areas, or even not just the desert areas, but maybe collaborate with local farmers and produce? And I don't know. I didn't know if there's anything out there, or if that opportunity zone fit into that.
Well, the first thing I'll say about opportunity zones is that my understanding is that even the people who work specifically on the opportunity zone issues are still trying to figure out everything about opportunity zones. I know that there are guidelines. I don't know specifically what they are. That probably is worth exploring. But as far as like incentivizing grocery stores, I mean, that could be a potential recommendation. Again, I don't know if it's I haven't looked at it, you know, all of the recommendations. I don't know if that's necessarily the strongest one. I'm not sure, but I mean, it's certainly on the list of things to look at for sure.
I was just curious about, you know, sometimes one by itself doesn't make it work, but if you stack that up, and if there's, you know, areas where even maybe some infrastructure had to be created, and you could, you know, if it's a blighted area, you could use a TIF structure to try to help fund that for people. You know, and a lot of times people don't understand that you can stack a whole bunch of those things on top of each other and make something viable, but it's almost like you'd have to do it as an educational program and see what you could do to maybe get a group of those together or something. I don't know. It just seems like there's usually a lot of things out there that people don't know about, and like everybody's kind of talked about, even Nancy on the individual end, and you saying, do you know which grocer or which restaurants have local produce? And it's like, well, I probably read about it once on an advertisement on Facebook that somebody was bragging about it, but I couldn't tell you. So it is a lot of that. But I just wonder, because unfortunately, like you mentioned before, unless the dollars work, or somebody can figure out how to make the dollars work, a lot of these great ideas go kind of over to the good idea pile, but never into the execution pile, you know?
Yeah, and that actually does bring up something that I was going to respond with, and that is our recommendations are probably in, you know, because it's just a 10-year plan, are going to be probably not overly complicated and not overly expensive. Things that are easy to adopt, more or less. Which, in going back to your question, one of the major issues that we have uncovered, because we also talked not just with farmers, but with local restaurant owners and chefs, there seems to be a lack of a communication network between the growers and the chefs, the restaurants, people who are putting it out, you know, onto plates and tables. So that's, you know, that could be a simple solution, is just some sort of communication network so people know who's selling what and where they can get it. Other questions?
Corey,
Think
just,
about- oh, sorry, go ahead.
just a quick question on the plan. Was the master plan, while we are focusing on maybe the lower income of those, but it's actually supposedly to help healthy food for all Wichitan, is that correct for the plan? So that's where the stores who are doing their fresh produce and farmers markets and all, I guess I'll come in handy. It almost sounds like, however, that the food system, what we're talking about, the local food system, look like the focus is more on lower income, not just I can go to Dillon's and the master plan is part of that as well, right? I'm just trying to figure out how this was actually meant to be, and how is it meant to be all things for all people in Wichita, or is it really truly focused on the lower income?
So I think that's where this started, kind of what Becky was talking about. It started with the access issue. And then when they started talking about, well, how can we address this? How do we look at the food system as a whole? We realize there are lots of issues at play here. I don't want to say that this isn't just a plan to reach the low income folks in Wichita, but more of a holistic approach, I think, to the food system as a whole, with the idea that that is one of the major issues that we're addressing.
Okay.
I feel like that was probably too much of like a politician pivot answer, but I mean, really, that is a major issue that we're addressing, but you know, we're also addressing the food system as a whole. I mean, I think that everyone will benefit.
Okay.
That's the idea anyway. Other questions or comments? And let me also say that your questions and comments, there's a place on wichita.gov/food plan where if you think of something, there's a button to click that'll send an email to the steering committee. So questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, anything you have, send it there as well. I guess kind of addressing, Janetta, your question or point there, we are trying to narrow the focus of this as well, because you know, we'll only have the ability to affect so much. So one thing that we're asking people to do is rank what they see as their personal goals for the food system, and also rank what they see the community goals should be, understanding that those might not always line up.
Okay. I don't know what, when we started mentioning opportunity zone, my mind just started saying, are we talking about, because there's all these different zones up to downtown, all these different opportunity zones. And that's why I was just trying to get a clarity, but I'll look a little bit more into it and send you some information or some ideas or suggestions, or I'd like that to take. Sure.
Yeah, we're pretty, I mean, at this point, we're functioning pretty separate from opportunity zones. I mean, that's probably part of a discussion that needs to be had, but
okay,
it hasn't happened yet in our discussions of the master plan. Okay, so we saw this slide, how you can be involved, and that video that I initially showed you was on that website. Again, these are past dates, and some of those dates have changed. This hasn't been updated since COVID, but any other overall questions? All right, well, I will send you all an email with the information requested, the link to the video, the link to that page, the link to the survey. Please take it, share that information. We are also planning to have a social media town hall of sorts, where we basically have the same kind of discussion to a greater audience on Facebook. So another opportunity to chime in. That date hasn't been set yet, but I'll share it with all of you, of course. Any ways that you can think to add more voices to this discussion that you're connected with, please help get them in touch with with me, with us, or make that connection yourself. We don't need to vote on this. This was just a provide feedback agenda item. So any other comments for the questions for the good of the cause on the meeting as a whole? Great, then I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn. Sam, you're on mute, but I read your lips. He made that motion.
So moved or seconded?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
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 All right, great. Thanks, everyone. We'll
Hey, thank you.
Bye.